You do not really hate people, do you? You just feel different. When you are alone, lighter, calmer, more real, and maybe that is the part nobody around you fully understands. They look at your silence and call it distance. They look at your need for space and call it coldness. They look at your comfort in solitude and assume something must be wrong. But what if the truth is much deeper than that? What if being alone is not where you disappear, but where you finally return to yourself? There is a kind of exhaustion that does not come from work, or lack of sleep, or responsibility. It comes from constantly adjusting who you are around other people. It comes from filtering your thoughts before you say them. It comes from shrinking your emotions so they feel easier to handle. It comes from pretending certain conversations do not drain you. Certain people do not disturb you. Certain environments do not slowly disconnect you from yourself. And if you live like that long enough, solitude stops feeling lonely. It starts feeling honest. That is one of the deepest truths about people who love being alone. Most of them are not in love with emptiness. They are in love with relief. Relief from performing. Relief from explaining. Relief from being observed. Relief from carrying the invisible pressure of being emotionally available all the time. When they are alone, something inside them softens. Their nervous system loosens. Their thoughts stop running in circles. Their body finally feels like it does not have to prepare for anything. And in that quiet, they begin to feel like themselves again. But this does not happen randomly. Usually, people grow attached to solitude after learning something painful. They learn that not every presence brings peace. They learn that being around others can be louder than being alone. They learn that some relationships ask for access, but offer no understanding. They learn that some conversations leave them emptier than silence ever could. And slowly, they begin to notice something hard to explain. They feel safer inside their own company than inside many rooms full of people. This is where other people often misunderstand them. They think a person who loves being alone must be antisocial, arrogant, wounded, depressed, emotionally unavailable. But often, the real answer is simpler and more painful. They have just become too aware of tone, too aware of emotional cost, too aware of the ways shallow energy can disturb a deep inner life. Once someone notices how much of themselves they lose around the wrong people, it becomes very difficult to keep pretending that all company is good company. And that is why solitude begins to feel sacred, not dramatic, not mystical, sacred, because it becomes the one place where distortion falls away. In solitude, nobody is asking you to be easier to understand. Nobody is asking you to smile on command. Nobody is asking you to soften your truth so it lands more comfortably. There is no social theatre, no emotional negotiation, no quiet self-betrayal. There is only you, and what remains when the noise leaves. For some people, that is terrifying. For others, it is freedom. Because when you are alone long enough, you begin to hear yourself clearly. You hear what you actually think before the world edits it. You hear what you actually feel before you turn it into something acceptable. You hear what your body has been trying to say through tension, tiredness, withdrawal, irritation, and sometimes what you hear is uncomfortable. Sometimes you realize you're not tired because life is hard. You're tired because too much of your life is false. Too much of it is performance. Too much of it is adaptation. That realization changes a person. It makes them slower, more careful, more selective. They stop confusing attention with connection. They stop admiring people just because those people are socially easy. They stop trying to belong everywhere. because deep down, they have already felt the cost of belonging in places that require self-erasure. Once you have experienced that cost, solitude no longer feels like lack, it feels like protection. Maybe that is why some of the deepest people you will ever meet are the ones who spend the most time alone. Not because they have nothing to give, but because they have learned that what they carry inside themselves is too important to expose carelessly. Their quiet is not emptiness. Their distance is not always rejection. Sometimes it is self-respect. Sometimes it is emotional intelligence. Sometimes it is the soul refusing to be diluted any further. So if you have ever wondered why being alone feels so natural to you, maybe the answer is not that you are broken. Maybe the answer is that your inner world has become too valuable to keep offering it to noise. But solitude is not only peaceful. This is the part people romanticize too quickly. They imagine being alone as candles, rain on windows, soft music, deep thoughts, and sometimes it is. Sometimes solitude feels beautiful. Sometimes it feels like breathing after being underwater too long, but sometimes it feels heavy. Sometimes it feels like being left in a room with every truth you have been postponing. Because when you are alone, there is no distraction strong enough to protect you from yourself forever. That is why real solitude transforms people. It does not just comfort them, it confronts them. When you sit with yourself long enough, your mind starts bringing unfinished things to the surface. The things you said did not matter. The people you claimed you were over. The resentment you covered with politeness. The grief you buried under productivity. The anger you kept translating into patience. Solitude has a strange way of removing decoration from pain. It does not let you hide behind movement forever. It asks you a very simple, very brutal question. Who are you when nobody is looking at you? Who are you when nobody needs you? Who are you when you are not performing usefulness, kindness, intelligence, warmth, strength? Who are you when there is no audience? Most people run from that question. Some never even let themselves hear it clearly. They stay busy, they stay available, they stay surrounded, not because they are happy, but because noise keeps identity questions blurry. If life is always moving, then nothing has to be examined too deeply. But the person who loves being alone often ends up facing these questions much earlier than everyone else. And that changes them in ways others can feel, even when they cannot explain it. It changes the way they relate to connection. They no longer want what is loud. They want what is real. They no longer care much about being included if inclusion costs inner peace. They no longer admire people just for being charismatic, expressive, entertaining. They begin to look for something else: depth, calm, presence, emotional honesty, safety, resonance. And once those standards form, it becomes harder and harder to keep participating in things that feel empty. This is why solitude can make a person seem more distant over time, not because they are losing their heart, but because they are sharpening their discernment. They can feel when a conversation is only surface. They can feel when someone is interested in access, but not understanding. They can feel when they are being liked for a version of themselves that is easier to consume than the real one. That sensitivity makes casual interaction more tiring, not because they are weak, but because they are no longer numb. And there is grief in that, real grief, because the more aware you become, the fewer places feel like home. The more honest you become, the harder it is to play along. The more you learn to hear your own inner voice, the less willing you are to betray it for comfort. This can make growth feel lonely, not because nobody exists around you, but because fewer and fewer people can meet you where you actually are. You begin to outgrow rooms before you leave them, outgrow conversations while they are still happening, outgrow versions of yourself that other people are still expecting from you. That kind of solitude does not feel glamorous. It feels expensive, but it also gives something most people spend their whole lives trying to find: coherence. The feeling that your inner life and your outer life are no longer at war. The feeling that you are not constantly editing yourself to stay accepted. The feeling that your yes means yes, your no means no, your silence means something. Your energy belongs to you. People who truly learn from solitude become harder to manipulate because they are no longer starving for validation. They become harder to rush because they are no longer afraid of stillness. They become harder to fool because they have spent enough time with truth to recognize falseness faster. Still, solitude has a danger too. It can heal, but it can also harden. There are people who are alone because they are protecting peace, and there are people who are alone because they no longer believe connection can be safe. From the outside, those two can look similar, but inside, they are very different. Healthy solitude makes you clearer, softer, more grounded. Defensive solitude makes you suspicious, distant, unreachable. Healthy solitude helps you return to life with more truth. Defensive solitude turns withdrawal into identity. So the question is not only do you love being alone, the deeper question is what your aloneness is doing to your heart. Is it helping you hear yourself, or is it helping you avoid being hurt again? Is it restoring your spirit, or slowly closing it? That honesty matters because solitude should reveal you, not erase you. In the end, people who love being alone are often carrying a truth the world does not know how to respect. They know that peace is not found in constant access. They know that being surrounded is not the same thing as being understood. They know that some of the loneliest moments in life happen in the presence of others, when your body is there but your soul is not. And once someone has felt that deeply enough, they stop worshipping company for its own sake. This is why solitude can become more than a preference. It becomes a standard, a way of saying, if a person, a place, or a relationship cannot offer more peace than my own company, then it does not belong that close to me. That is not arrogance. That is maturity. That is what happens when someone finally understands the value of their own inner world. They stop treating access to themselves like something cheap. And this is where the deepest shift happens. A person who learns to be alone without collapsing begins to develop a very rare kind of strength. They stop needing to be constantly reassured in order to feel real. They stop confusing attention with worth. They stop chasing spaces where they feel tolerated instead of seen. They stop abandoning themselves just to avoid temporary loneliness. In other words, they become harder to control. Because so much control in this world depends on one thing: the fear of being alone. If someone is terrified of solitude, they will accept almost anything to escape it. Wrong relationships, empty friendships, disrespect, inconsistency, emotional crumbs. But the person who has made peace with being alone becomes much more difficult to trap. They would rather sit with silence than beg for closeness that costs dignity. They would rather spend an evening in their own mind than spend a lifetime disconnected from themselves. That changes the entire structure of their life. But the deepest lesson of solitude is not just independence, it is self-knowledge. When you spend enough honest time alone, you begin to notice what your spirit reacts to. You notice what makes you feel heavy, what makes you feel alive, what makes you shrink, what makes you expand. You start learning the language of your own nervous system. You start seeing patterns that were invisible in the noise, why you get tired around certain people, why some environments make you anxious, why some interactions leave you feeling subtly ashamed, why some forms of connection feel like being consumed instead of being loved. This is not overthinking. This is data. This is the soul paying attention. And when a person starts trusting that data, everything changes. They choose more carefully, they speak more honestly, they disappear from what no longer feels right. They stop apologizing for needing space. They stop translating their depth into smaller language. They stop calling self-betrayal flexibility. They stop calling overstimulation normal. They begin to build a life that matches their truth instead of constantly negotiating against it. That is what viewers should take from this video. Loving solitude does not automatically mean something is wrong with you. It may mean you are noticing things other people are trained to ignore. It may mean your mind is asking for recovery from too much adaptation. It may mean your heart is tired of shallow connection. It may mean you are in a season where the self needs to be rebuilt before it can be shared again. And there is dignity in that. At the same time, solitude should not become a prison you decorate and call peace. It should remain a mirror, a place where you return to hear yourself, understand yourself, strengthen yourself. Then, from that place, you choose better people, better boundaries, better forms of closeness, because the goal is not to disappear from humanity forever. The goal is to stop disappearing from yourself whenever humanity gets too loud. Maybe that is the final truth. The people who love being alone are not always withdrawing from life. Sometimes they are moving closer to it, just in a deeper way. They are refusing to live on the surface, refusing to stay in noise that confuses them, refusing to offer themselves where they cannot remain whole. They are learning how to become real before becoming available. And in a world addicted to distraction, that is a radical act. So if being alone has always felt strangely natural to you, do not rush to judge that part of yourself. Study it, respect it, ask what it reveals, ask what it protects, ask whether it is healing you or hiding you. Ask whether your peace in solitude is teaching you clarity or building a wall around pain you still need to face. Be honest, because if you are honest, solitude can become one of the clearest paths back to your real self. And if this video spoke to something deep inside you, write it in the comments. What does being alone reveal about you? And subscribe to the channel, because the next videos will go even deeper into human psychology, emotional patterns, self-respect, and the hidden truths people feel but rarely know how to explain.